live once again for September 8th, 2024. Hockey bags and hockey bags.
Some might agree with them. Some might say that's better.
I'm a little tired. Oh, hockey, books, and storytellers with Teabag Tone coming at you live from Mission and Burnaby. Retroactive. Whatever. Like, I have the best words. I have the best words.
You're rolling today.
My brain is mush. But yesterday I left my wallet and phone in a shopping cart. Like,
what?
When I returned the shopping cart, my wallet and phone were in there, and I drove away. And then I turned around, like I was going to run another errand, and I got there. I realized I didn't have my wallet, so I rushed back to the shopping center and ran up to the customer. Did anybody return a phone? And because the cart was gone already, and so I decided I'll walk into the store and see if anybody. And I walk in, and like 20 feet in, there's a woman looking in my wallet for my ID and stuff. So I just walked out. Oh, thank God! You know, like, oh man, she was. Yeah, I was just talking to your wife. Oh, great! You're talking to my wife. The last person I want or no, you know, and so she. So I got lucky. I got it back, and yeah. Oh, thank you, Jamila, and her husband. I didn't get his name, but Jamila, thank you so much for returning my wallet and phone. My life is in that phone, so I got it, man. I swear I'm losing my mind.
You need to bring out your old 1991 fanny pack.
Yeah, really. Yeah, because I'm always wearing shorts, so I don't have pockets, right? So I can't. You know, but when the weather gets colder, I'll have my hoodie on. I'll have pockets.
What do you mean you're wearing shorts and you don't have pockets? Do you just wear?
I don't have pockets in my shorts. So
70s runners?
No, they're Walmart shorts. They don't have pockets. They're only like $10. So you want me to buy high-end shorts with pockets? Man, I can't afford that. So
how about you treat yourself and get some like
some cargo shorts or something? Yeah. So I'm gonna have to, because this isn't the first time it's happened. I keep leaving stuff around, but luckily I realized it quickly enough, and I go back and get it. So yeah, don't get older. Your short-term memory starts to go. So
Dennis will love you even more if you enter the cargo shorts club.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I'm wearing my Harlem jersey today. Yeah, in honor of our former team. They're starting their season tonight at 8 rinks. And just wanted to give a shout out to the guys, JT, Arnie, O-Town,
Eduardo,
Nate Dog,
Aline.
Eduardo, Nate Dog. So, yeah, so you guys go get them, and defending champions, you win that thing again. So kudos to you guys, and we'll be there in spirit.
I love it. I love another championship plaque on our trophy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Harlem's won quite a few. So
that's 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Yeah. Awesome.
Could have won a few more.
Yeah. Yeah, we have better goaltending, right? Yeah. Well, Cujo, the goalie, the goalie who took over for me, Cujo, Curtis Johnson. He's an awesome goalie. He's a lot bigger than I am, so you know he's more of a shot blocker than I was, and I was a little more active, and I would Cujo, if you're listening, buddy, make a pass. That stick is more than just shot blocking. You can pass with it. So, I used to pride myself on my playmaking abilities. Curtis not so much, but he's a great goalie. He really is. He's breaking all my records. Yeah, he's so I held almost every goaltending record for Harlem, and he's breaking them all. So
there was a stretch there where pretty much we had the best goaltender in the entire division, and you included too. Like, I mean, I love throwing you under the bus, but Cujo specifically, when you've got the best goaltender in the division, that's nice.
Yeah, it's a great equalizer. That's no doubt about it. So
You've got a couple of championships.
Yeah.
You had a couple of Harlem championships.
Yeah, I had a couple. Yeah. So, I'm not complaining. So, we gotta, do a little sad business today. We gotta send our hearts and thoughts out to the Goudreau family.
Yeah, that's rough.
Johnny and Matthew tragically killed while riding their bikes, hit by a drunk driver. And the night before, they were supposed to be at their sister's wedding. So it's such a sad story. And, we were talking just, a couple weeks ago about these aggressive drivers, right? And that's exactly what the guy was in a hurry trying to pass traffic, and he couldn't pass them on the left, so he passed them on the right and just ran right over Johnny and Matthew. And he'd had a few in him, I guess. And man, just like, I don't understand. Like, the outpouring of grief here is amazing. This is Nationwide Arena in Columbus, where Johnny Goudreau played. Matthew Goudreau hadn't played since 2021, I believe, and he played mostly in the ECHL, a little bit in the AHL. But that's not to diminish him in any sense. But yeah, just a tragedy all around. Like, I never paid much attention to Johnny Goudreau. Like, I was aware of him. Obviously, he played for Calgary and played against the Canucks. He scored his very first NHL goal against the Canucks on Eddie Lack.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so 2014, I believe it was, and so. And then a couple of years ago, he had a breakout season where he had 114 points, and then he signed the big contract with. Up until then, he was a point-a-game player, and then he kind of reverted back to that in Columbus. But he got the big contract, and but still, just for a guy who's only 5'9", 160 pounds, he's just an awesome player. And for a little guy to make it in a big man's league, you gotta. You got to have courage, and so you got to give him props for that. But it just, man, what a just tragedy all around. Like, just a terrible, terrible thing.
Yeah, that's tough. And to think that the next day they were both going to be groomsmen at his sister's wedding.
Right.
I heard that. I mean, it just breaks your heart. I mean, grief will come in waves and doesn't really go away, but just the timing of all that is awful. And those two, and I enjoyed reading about their time at Boston College, and they were supposed to go to, I believe Michigan somewhere, and ended up getting a call from another coach, and it fell through. So Johnny says, well, it's your turn. You pick where we want to go. And so, I mean, Johnny was obviously the player with a path to the pros, but the first choice didn't work out. So, I mean, I think it was reflective of the kind of guy he was, certainly based on everything, the friends and family and the hockey world talking about him, but how to his brother, Matthew, he said, hey, where do you want to go? I picked the first time. And so they ended up at Boston College and played those 4 years. And yeah, he was always hitting above his weight. I mean, what a wonder kid as far as talent. And yeah, he'll be it hit hard.
It did. Yeah. I was hard to explain, but it hit me harder because I wasn't a fan. I wasn't, I was aware of him, and I kept, being a hockey fan, you can't help but know who he is. But man, it's just like when the rumors started on Twitter, like people were saying, this is not confirmed, don't spread misinformation, just, take it as a rumor. And then the next day it got confirmed, and it's like, man, it just, I was in a funk all day long just thinking about it, and not just that they died, but the way they died. And then, and then, when I was railing against road ragers and whatnot, just exactly that type of incident, and I just like, people, you gotta slow down. I mean, it's not worth it, like to get to where you're gonna get 30 seconds, 5 minutes sooner. Like, it's just not worth it. Like, slow down. And
well, and more importantly, don't have that third beer. Don't.
Oh, yeah. Like, don't drink and drive. Like, that's just sheer lunacy. So, yeah. So our hearts go out to the Goodrow family and everybody who knew them. I mean, you could see all his teammates were absolutely devastated. Former teammates, Matthew Kachuk put a, really heartbreaking notice on Twitter. And so, yeah, it's a sad thing. And it kind of reminds me of the Luc Bourdon tragedy, that we went through when, he was killed in a motorcycle accident. And man, it's just so hard. Just such a waste, such a waste. So anyway, moving on, Edmonton Oilers news, Draisaitl signs.
Yeah,
what do you think? What, 8 years, $114 million contract?
Yeah, it's
$112 million. Oh, actually, my wife was right. It's $14 million a year. My wife knew and I didn't. I said $114 million. So
yeah, I think it was a no-brainer. I never doubted it, and I don't think anybody close to the team doubted that he was going to re-sign. I think it's a slam dunk. There's no doubt that Connor's going to sign. I mean that loss, whether they won or lost the cup last year, I think the last couple of years, with just how close they're getting and how tight that team is and wanting to win and the drive to win, I really have that loss galvanized that team in such a manner that Connor, 29 and 97, there's only one place physically and literally that they could play in the same town is with Edmonton, just from a cost standpoint. So when you get a chance to play with your best pal and the best player in the world, it's fantastic. I think it sets they're set up well over the next couple of years. They've got, after next year, they should have over 10 million in cap space, with some contracts coming off the book. Skinner's only on for $1 million. And then once Connor's contract comes up, he'll be in the 16 range for sure. And they'll at this point, there's like 45 or 46 million on the books at that point in time. The cap's going to go up. Even if it goes up 5%, 5 to 6% each year, they're going to have room to play and maneuver. This year, they've got, I think, about $1 million in cap space right now. Not to say that there won't be trades or whatnot, but I think smarter powers that be and pay grades above us, they're 14 moves ahead of anything that we're imagining. They're figuring out what does our team look like in 2 years, and look at those dollars. So it's just I think Connor will sign before. I'll bet you Connor signs this year. He'll sign before next summer. They'll see where the cap goes, but he's going to be in at 16 million. Bouchard's going to come in at 10 million. And that's a lot of money for 3 players of your team, but
they're players you can't do without, right? I mean, exactly. they're all 3 are franchise players. So to have 3 of them on one team is kind of incredible. So yeah, it's just filling out the rest of the roster with the money that you have. So it's going to take a bit of juggling, but I'm in, like these 8-year contracts. It's like, are they going to regret that contract 5 years from now? Like, are they going to hate that contract? So,
Leon's?
Yeah.
No.
You don't think so? No. Of course, I was wrong when Jacob Markstrom signed with Calgary for $6 million a year for 6 years. I thought they were going to hate that contract, but it turns out it's a bargain. So,
yeah.
So.
I mean, any 8-year contract, is Leon going to be worth 14 million in 8 years? Probably not. He's not going to. You have to assume there'll be some kind of decline in the skill set, of course, 8 years later. But I mean, you're not paying for year 8.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying for year 8 now. in that sense. You're not enunciating that properly, but any 8-year contract, in the 8th year, is that person going to be worth that much? The other thing is if you look at Leon's last contract, the cheapest, the best contract, arguably in NHL, certainly recent history, to be being paid. He was getting 8.5. I think either 8.5 or 6.5 million. 8.5, I think. But an absolute bargain of a deal. And so, I mean, if you prorate that out, and I mean the playoff revenue alone, over the next couple, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whether they're in the elite level 5 or 6 years from now, but you have to look at and think that they're going to be a competitive team for the next 5 years. That core is going to be locked up. So, I mean, revenue in the cap, playoff revenue. Yeah, I mean, when you have a generational talent, I mean, what was the Canuck guy came from Boston, and you guys doled out the 8-year.
Oh
shoot.
Draw the blank.
Not Krejci.
Jake and
Earlson. It starts with an E.
Whatever, yeah. But tell you the truth, I wanted him too. I wanted that player on the Canucks. He's what they need, just a guy who can score, who's mean and tough and gritty and stuff. So but they did overpay, but I guess they had to. So okay, Demko Silov's on the Canucks end. Canucks news.
Louis Eriksson.
Oh yeah, Louis Eriksson. Now, oh God, don't put me in that.
He played really well with the Sedins at the World Championships. Let's sign him. Let's sign him.
That was a terrible contract right from the get go. It was
but anyway. Who knew?
You're giving me nightmares. It's worse than the Messier contract. So, I'd like to encourage our American friends to register to vote. You've got a very important election coming. We're not getting political here. We're not going to tell you who to vote for. Just register to vote, and if you think you're already registered, make sure you're registered, because they purge those voter rolls all the time. So just make sure you're registered and get out and vote, because my father fought in World War II just so you could have that right. So make sure you get out and vote.
How great is that debate going to be? I can't. Can you imagine? Think about the viewership numbers for that debate.
Yeah.
It will be massive. It will be one of the most watched television events of this year.
No doubt. Okay. Music of the week. You got any music of the week?
Yeah. So as a kid, how close was a drive-in movie theater to you?
Oh, they were all over the place. I was just talking about that with a friend of mine. There was the Lougheed Drive-In, the Cascades, the Westminster, the Surrey, the Hillcrest. They were everywhere. It was like so many. Now the last one is closing.
Well, you go ahead and tell the story for me then, Teabag.
Okay, sorry. Did I step on your toes there?
I love the way you had a chemical change in your body talking about it. And I was the same way. As drive-ins as a kid was just unreal. My favorite was Dad took Michael and I to see The Road Warrior.
Oh, nice.
And not knowing what it was or what it was going to be, and just absolute epic. So the Twilight Drive-In in Langley is closing at the end of the month. So if you haven't been to the drive-in, it's a great experience. And so music of the week for me, from I think it was the first drive-in movie that I ever saw, was American Graffiti.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got all those great 50s songs on it, all the one-hit wonders.
Oh my gosh, like this entire soundtrack. And you can put on this music anywhere, anytime, and it gets everybody going. There's no angst. There's no angst to it whatsoever. And the old fold out for it. Yeah. Just it's a testament to the music of that era that in 2 minutes, 2:20, just nothing but goodness. So.
Oh yeah, those songs stick in your head. So yeah, good call. Yeah, I've been to the Twilight Drive-In 3 times this summer, so just want to make sure I get my time in.
Here's a public service announcement. I literally just found this out last week. So I took the boys there a few months back. And so figuring out the auxiliary or whatnot on my truck or trucks. So the audio comes through FM. I've got a 2020 Ford and have had a Ford truck forever and ever. You can, and certainly going back 5 or 6, 7 years additions, you can actually, did you know that car off, no auxiliary or anything, you can press the power button on the audio, on the radio, and the radio comes on?
Really? I did not know that.
Nor did I.
I'll have to try that.
Yeah.
Wow. So cool.
And I only found that out thinking about the drive-in and going, all right, how do I not press the auxiliary or start the car a little bit or whatnot?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I saw the new Alien movie and
Romulus.
Yes. So and what gets me is like on Twitter, it's either getting really bad or really good reviews. Like there's no in between. It's like people like there's people who are fundamentalists who if it's not exactly the way they want it, they get like TW was like that. Oh. He hated Prometheus, and I love Prometheus. Like it just like we had that argument all the time. Like I love Prometheus, and he hated it. But so I think. Go ahead. Well, I was just thinking that there are the people who are the dyed in the wool fans of Alien who want the storyline to be a certain way. When it doesn't go that way, they kind of tune out. So but Romulus was great, but it's to me it was just more of the same basically. But if you're a fan of Alien, yeah, definitely go see it. I thought it was great. It was very entertaining and a few twists. Then they bring back because Romulus takes place just after the first Alien in the timeline. So they bring back one of the characters. I won't tell you which character, but one of the characters returns. And so, it did. I thought the way they did it was awesome. So yeah, really, really good. So go see it. Okay. Book of the week. Is a friend of mine. I
didn't have anything to say about that. Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead. What do you want to say?
No, go for it. Let's talk Let's talk more about you.
Oh, wait, that's my book. The book of the week this week is that's my other book. Okay, so hang on. This is the book of the week. The Retirement by my friend T.W. Robinson, who lives in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, former police officer. He wrote this book, and when I was reading it, I didn't quite get it because there was no real plot to it. It was a bunch of cops get together to celebrate a retirement of one of their compadres, and basically they're just telling stories. And the stories are very entertaining, very good, but there was nothing connecting them together. And then at the very end, he brilliantly ties it all together, and the ending had my jaw dropped on the desk. It's just like you will not believe the ending of this book is so well done, and you will not see it coming. So okay, we got rapid fire now. So are you ready? I know you're not feeling your best, but I tried to make the questions fairly easy for you. Oh, you ready? You ready to go? Rapid fire for September 8th, 2024. Question 1. Are you ready?
Let me know when I can talk.
Okay. Which Beatle sang Hey Jude?
Paul McCartney.
Right. Name the current Vice President of the United States.
Kamala Harris.
Name the current Deputy Prime Minister of Canada.
Oh, the gal. Can't remember her name. Pass.
Chrystia Freeland. Funny that
Right.
you know the American but not the Canadian, eh?
I just couldn't think. I could tell you, pick her out of a lineup. I just couldn't remember her name.
Okay. 1996 Olympic hockey semifinal between Canada and Czech Republic. It was 1996. How many goals did Canada score in the shootout?
2.
0. Name 2 of the Canadians who shot for Canada. I'll give you a hint. None of them were female.
Oh gosh, 96.
96.
Wayne.
But-
Wayne and Eric.
There you go. 1 out of 2. That was the year that the coach famously did not use Gretzky in the shootout. So Fleury,
hold on a second. You said, are we talking Olympics or you said
Olympic
World
1996 semifinal?
You said World Cup.
No, I didn't. I said.
Oh gosh. Oh, I would have gotten. Sorry, I was thinking
Olympic hockey semifinal between Canada and Czech Republic. Name 2 of the Canadians who shot for Canada.
That was 98.
This is 96.
Nagano, 98.
Was it 98? Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll say 98 then. Name 2 of the Canadians who shot for Canada. I'll let you go again.
Oh, Lindros, Shanahan, Bork, and not Wayne.
Yeah, not Wayne. Fleury and Nieuwendyk. Yep. So, okay. Entertainer George O'Dowd is better known as
Pass.
Boy George. In which movie did Sean Connery play Marco Ramius?
Oh, is that the one with Wesley Snipes? Pass.
Hunt for Red October. Wesley Snipes was not in that. Name the Abbotsford Killer.
Picton?
Nope. Terry Driver. True or false? Austin Butler won the 2023 Oscar for Best Actor for the film Elvis.
Correct.
False. Brendan Fraser won for The Whale.
Oh.
I'll give you an easy one for number 10. Who has played the most games as an Edmonton Oiler?
Most games. Smitty.
Kevin Lowe, 1,047.
That was my second choice.
Smitty was second. So, if Nuge plays a few more years, he'll pass. If he plays for, I think, 3 more seasons. So,
yeah.
All right, that's it. You can talk now. Anything you want to say, you go ahead.
No, nothing on Romulus. Nothing on.
You want to talk Alien?
Oh, I heard the same thing. The either you loved it or you hated it, but I loved the fact that it's set a day or after Alien. That's great. I was just watching something earlier. Have you watched all the Star Wars? Like, did you watch Rogue One?
Yes.
What a great movie! I absolutely.
Arguably the best Star Wars movie.
Yeah, it would be right up there. I mean, Empire is my favorite one, hands down. Never to be dethroned. But Rogue One is like it's amazing. And they were showing the ending where Vader tries to get onto the ship, and then Leia's ship leaves. And I saw that it was like a 27-second clip. It was set to AC/DC Hell's Bells. It was like one of those. It'd be better with Hell's Bells. But even just that kind of continuity or that kind of storytelling where it goes back, as it sounds like Romulus does, to go back and pick up where you think the story ended, but it actually didn't. I think I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, it's good. Definitely worth. You got to see it on the big screen for sure. I'm gonna see it again because at the drive-in, like, it was really dark. The screen was really dark, and the movie's really dark. So
you
I
saw
had
it
trouble.
at the drive-in.
Yeah, I had trouble deciphering where they were, who's that? Like, where are they? So yeah, I'm gonna have to watch it again just to.
Yeah. You've been an absolute whiz with your words right now. All of a sudden, we're finding out now that you went to the drive-in to see Romulus.
Yeah, I thought I made that clear.
No.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about the drive-in, and I said I saw Romulus. So, like, okay.
96 against Czechoslovakia.
Okay, I'm going to Google that right now. 1996.
98, Olympic. 2002,
Yeah.
And then it was every.
Okay, check out here. Oh, wait. Oh, that's
Olympic.
hang
The
on.
Winter Olympics were every 4 years at that point.
Yeah.
Well, they still are, but
Yeah. So
is there
yeah,
any
you're right.
McDonald's?
1998. I don't know why I had 96 in my head, but yeah, I'm a wreck today. So
full asterisk on my score. Full asterisk on my score.
Yeah, well, you didn't even get Kevin Lowe. So, just one more. I had one that a video one that I was going to ask you, but I'll just do it right now. So it's quick. Name this famous person.
Stanley.
Yeah, there you go. Good. Way to end with a win.
What nice. One other thing, 96, that World Cup of 1996, they have got to put a documentary together about that series and those, like, you know how they've done the Canada Cup, Blades of Steel and stuff like that for 87 and stuff like that. I would love to see all those 96 games again. That would be incredible.
Yeah, it was great hockey. So, okay, we're done, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. We're going to play for you now the part 2 of the Stan Fischler interview, which surprisingly was one of our least watched interviews. I think maybe a lot of people were on vacay at that time because it was during the summer. So we're going to play that for you again. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to have a special guest. So October is Cancer Awareness Month. And actually 4 weeks we'll have that.
You're on it today, bud.
My brain is broken. October is Cancer Awareness Month, so in October we're going to get special guests on. So talk about cancer and how it's affected them. It's affected everybody. I mean, I'm sure you included.
And the we didn't play the intro.
Oh
Producer.
shit. We didn't, did we? Man, my brain is broken. Holy cow. Okay. So here's the Stan interview for everybody. So yeah, the stupid producer, we gotta fire that producer. No. All right. More great stories.
Then I had a guy named Vern DeGreer who was zany guy. He went when Emil Francis was coaching the Rangers. He said something like, "I wish they wrote a song about Emil Francis, and the title of the song would be, How Does It Feel to Be an Emil?" So all these guys, going up to the present, Oh yeah, I want to say Earl McRae was probably the last guy to have a terrific impact. Earl was worked in Toronto, then he went to the Ottawa Sun, and he was writing in the Ottawa Sun, doing not just sports, he was doing everything. And Earl McRae's style was like one-sentence paragraphs. And what I found is that when I'm reading, and I became friendly with Earl also. He died, unfortunately, about 10 years ago. Very, very great guy and very prematurely. Anyhow, McRae, I found that this was very readable to me. So I'm figuring if it's readable to me, it's got to be readable to the readers. So I started into more short graphs, one-sentence graphs. And I'm now doing more than ever. I'm doing that now because I feel that the average reader doesn't have patience with you see a big fat paragraph, you turn away.
Those articles online, they'll actually have at the top of that article, they'll say how long of a read it is. Like it's a 4-minute read, it's a 2-minute read, which I think is a real transition into how that writing form is translated to people and how they digest it, that they're asking the reader, have you got 4 minutes? Okay, this might be worthy to you, instead of here it is, it's worthwhile of your time. I find that odd.
It's 2024, right? It's not 1934.
Yeah, and
I mean, everything's changed. That's one of my favorites.
yeah, I haven't read the whole thing. I kind of just skimmed through it, but there's one story that caught my attention, and you and your best friend came across a parked streetcar on your way home. We
call them trolleys.
Trolley, yes. And can you know what story I'm talking about?
I will if you hold the whole book up higher.
Yeah. Yeah, this is great. Like, I love all the pictures in it. Like, there's a picture of you right there. That
there it is.
Yeah, that's
you were a handsome guy.
It's funny you mention that, because I have pictures here that were, that would be. Yeah. Hold it right.
Yeah.
What's a trolley? What's a trolley dodger?
Well, Brooklyn at one time had more trolleys, or streetcars, if you will, than any place in the entire world. So if you were a Brooklynite and there were so many trolleys, you damn well had to be careful, otherwise you get run over and you get killed by a trolley. So Brooklynites were always dodging trolleys, okay? That's how the baseball team became known as the Dodgers.
Oh, okay.
The original name of the team was the Brooklyn Trolley Dodgers. But if you're writing a headline, it's too long, so they just knocked off the trolley and they became the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a interesting fact.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, the point is that my friend Howie and I, this was in the summer, and his parents had a house on the Atlantic Ocean called in Seagate. Seagate was sort of a closed community, and it was also the place where they stored trolley cars. In other words, after the rush hour, they didn't need all the trolleys, so it was like a big parking lot for trolley cars inside Seagate. So what happened was, it was the middle of the summer, and we only had one bike. In those days, it was the wartime. It was about 1943. So we used to ride around. Howie would be doing the pedaling, and I'd be sitting on the back, or I would pedal. So we're riding along. We get a blowout, and now we got no bike anymore to ride. We had to do something, and we were right by where they stored the trolleys. Well, I had already been a trolley nut, and when I was going for my bar mitzvah, I used to sit behind the. I knew how to run a trolley, okay? And the thing that's so easy when you're running a trolley is you got the controller, which runs the motor with the left hand, and with the right hand, you got the air brake, okay? So I said to Howie, I said, we got nothing to do. And there's all these trolleys here, one trolley in particular. He said, no, it's not a good idea. He says, first of all, we'll never be able to get the door open. I said, aha, watch. And all you got to do with the door is, push it. Mind you, this was a trolley, what they call forget the exact name, but it was from 1923-24. And we got the thing open. I said, let's come in. So we're inside, right where the motorman would sit. And I said, this is the controller. This is the brake. And then I tapped the bell. I had a bell, and you had to use your foot for the ding, 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 clang, clang, clang went the trolley. So I clanged it. And he said, well, let's, this is enough. Let's get out of here. I said, no, we're in here, for Christ's sake. Let's see if we can make it go. So he said, well, what does that mean? He said, well, now it used to run all, they had to get it in there, so they had to get it out, and they had the wires above. So I said, let's go in the back and see if we can hook it up. I knew how to do it. So I take the thing and I hook it up to the power, and all of a sudden you hear the motor going, ang, 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 ang. So we knew the thing was, ready to go. We go back into the thing, and I said, we got to be able to find the brake. He says, well, where is it? He said, well, usually there's a brake handle, and the motorman puts it in, and that's how he's got the brake. And sometimes I said, they store it down below. I couldn't find it. He says, well, let's get the hell out of here. We can't find the brake. I said, no, you run in front of the trolley while I'm doing it. He says, well, what happens if you want to stop? I said, well, you better get out of the way. He says, yeah, but what about the people in Seagate? How the hell are they going to know? We're going to be running over people who get arrested. So anyhow, that was the end of it. We never actually stole it, but we were in the process of doing it.
Have you ever taken a cross country train or taken a long trip on a train?
Many times, Shirley and I, many times. My wife's family was from originally British Columbia, and they moved down to Washington State. So every summer, we would come out there. My wife loved trains, so we used to go up to we used to take, at that time, you could take the Pennsylvania Railroad to Chicago and then take the Northern Pacific to Seattle, or we would go up to Toronto and take the, either Canadian National or Canadian Pacific. It was a great ride. It was great stuff.
It's unless you've done it, it's the most unique way for someone to see the country. I was a food and beverage manager on the American Orient Express one summer, and they came up and they were doing 10-day trips from Vancouver to Montreal. And that hands down was the most spectacular, like the way we came into Jasper, that you don't see that on any of the highways on Trans-Canada. And just that the way that we went across the prairies, I'm a prairie kid, but sitting in my room, watching the train go by and that clickety clack, I get goosebumps just even thinking about it right now. It's amazing.
What you should do is look up the composer Johnny Mercer. Johnny Mercer was one of the great composers of all time. Accentuate the positives, and he had train stuff in some of his songs. And one of them, it's easy to look up. It's called "I Took a Trip on a Train, and Then I Thought About You." It's a great love song, and the other one that's one of my favorites was from a show right after World War II. A lot of ex-GIs and GI women who were in show business, they put on a show called Call Me Mister. And you look up the tune, The Going Home Train. The Going Home Train is one of the, you talk about goose pimples, I get them anytime I play that. It's from Call Me Mister. It's called The Going Home Train. And the guy and I saw the show twice, by the way. I saw the show in person. But a lot of great train stuff. The Johnny Mercer wrote Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe from the what the hell is the movie? Meet Me in St. Louis. It was
okay.
A lot of good. I'm a train nut. You know.
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of people, I think, don't know about you, is that not only have you written hockey books, but you've written books on subway systems and streetcars and trolleys.
Well, I wrote a history of the Long Island Railroad, and I did the last paragraph was the world's only Long Island Railroad joke.
Okay, lay it on us.
So this old Irish guy is standing on a platform in, Patchogue, Long Island, waiting for the express that goes into New York City. And he was a very old guy, and while he was waiting, the guy got a heart attack and he collapsed, but he wasn't dead. He was just, he was there, he was alive. And there happened to be a Catholic priest on the platform, and he goes over to the old Irish guy, and he says, my son, you know your life as well as anybody. Tell me, do you based on the way you lived. Do you think you're going to go to heaven or to hell? And the old Irish guy looks at him and he says, Father, I don't give a damn where I go as long as I don't have to change at Jamaica. Now, a Long Island person would crack up with that because it's a big deal about changing.
We're getting close to the end of our allotted hour here. Are you okay to go on for a few minutes?
Oh, why not?
Because this is great, Stan. We're loving every minute of it here.
Teabag, just one more thing about trains. They just announced a couple months ago that they're bringing back a quick train from Vancouver to Portland that you can get down to Portland in about an hour and 15 minutes. Going to roll out in 2025, so that's going to be great. I've never done the West Coast down along the water. Would be pretty spectacular too.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah.
My oldest son Ben lives in Portland. He'll be excited when I tell him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
Portland's a great town.
Mm-hmm. Tales of Brooklyn, your latest book. How has sales been? Have been pretty good?
Well, first of all, I self-published it. I would say that's one of the best things I ever did in my life in terms of pleasant. Well, it was done that was me on the top of Ebbetsfield Lights. I was very scared there. It doesn't look like it, but I was. Anyhow, I have to sell it myself, and I have had book signings and stuff like that, but it's certainly not going to make me rich in the money sense, but in the literary and personal sense, I love the book. I love the book, and you've read it, and I got all kinds of crazy stories. I mean, let's face it, I grew up in World War II. That was a special time. Not that this isn't a special time, but in a different way. And Brooklyn was a great place to grow up. It was, we were poor, but we didn't know it because we were having too much fun. And there was stuff about the candy stores, my bar mitzvah, all kinds of. I even have a thing about riding the trolley to go for my bar mitzvah lessons, which was every Sunday morning. Sunday morning, up at 6, go to the corner of Vernon Avenue and Tompkins, waiting for the Tompkins Avenue trolley. And I'm pretty sure I have the stories. I was the only person on the trolley, and I sat right in front with the motorman. And it was the middle of the winter, and it was one of these great, lovely New York snowstorms where the snow was sticking and it was windy. And I was hoping that the motorman would make all the green lights, so it'd be just like a wild ride. And I think we made about 10 green lights. Then finally we had to stop. And but I told the story about going there, then coming back, and then every Sunday afternoon was going to the hockey games at the Garden. This was not the Rangers. This was the Rovers, their farm team. So those was wild Sundays in Brooklyn.
It's a legacy piece for you, that book, Tales of Brooklyn.
That's what it is. Exactly. For my kids and grandkids and friends.
I started a rumor that you're writing another one. Is that true?
I started actually, and I did a first chapter, which was how I learned how to ride a two-wheeler bike. I was 10 in 1942, and I had a special time when I would do the writing. It was be like early evening. And I found that with all the other stuff I was doing, I was tired of being, at a keyboard. So I haven't continued. I want to continue it because I got a ton of stories, but, it's...
keep those fingers moving, right? The momentum.
Yeah, right. Momentum. That's what it is, momentum.
Yeah. So, can you tell Craig, because he doesn't believe me, how much you enjoyed my books?
Well, I don't remember how I wound up with the book. How did you wind?
Our friend George Grimm got me in touch with you, and I sent you the.
was a great friend of mine too. Okay, so I read the book. I started reading the book, and by the middle, I got pissed off because it was too good, and I was upset that I was going to be at the end of the book, and I wanted to read more. And Teabag was very kind enough to write another book, which I also read and loved. And I told him that he has a place in show business.
Yeah, keep talking.
Hold for applause. Hold for applause.
well, thank you very much. And that's, I'm still absolutely humbled that you enjoyed what I wrote. So, and trying to keep it going, trying to keep that momentum going, but yeah, it's a little tough, So,
well, I'm reading a book now that my younger son Simon gave me. If I had it here, I'd tell you the title. Anyhow, it's an inspirational book, and it's about a guy who was a Jewish guy in a concentration camp in Auschwitz, and how he was able to survive, and some of his other, whatever you call them when you're in a concentration camp, were able to survive this absolutely horrific thing. And the thing he said that helped save him was not that he didn't give up hope, but he kept thinking about what it would be like when they open the gates and the war is over. And the thoughts about, reunioning with his wife, who also was in a concentration, and he didn't even know whether she was alive or not. That was there's a word for it, not momentum, of course, but it was something that kept him going, And that to me is what's keeping me going. Hockey is keeping me going because, I love to sit down and think up a good lead and have a good ending to it, and I learned this from Dave Anderson when he was a colleague of mine who went on to the Times, was write a good lead and then wrap it up at the bottom with a good punchline that's related to the lead so that there's a connection. And I try to do that a lot. That was something I learned from Dave. And I read all the time, and I'm reading, this is another guy who inspired me years ago. It was Robert Benchley. He's a humorist, and he wrote many, many books. He was also in movies. And rereading Benchley, I get ideas that I put into my own stories, but in a different way. It's style. Well,
I've got the next book you should read. This would be right up your alley. It's called the Last Original Ranger of New York. It's a novel. We're going to have this guy on the show probably within a few weeks. Brian Riley.
Canadian?
No, he's from New York, and he's a huge Ranger fan. And it tells the story of the very early Rangers when they very first got going. And he fictionalized it, but all the characters, Conn Smythe, all the old players, so you'll recognize a lot of names in that. So
I write a lot about Conn Smythe. I read his autobiography. Scott Young was his ghostwriter, and Conn Smythe to me is one of the a great man of the world, and a great Canadian, and a great patriotic Canadian. And of course, he was the guy who put my favorite team together. And reading his book, it's very inspirational. He was a tough guy, but he never wavered from his principles.
Do you remember as a kid, or I imagine you were reading as a younger kid? Do you remember a first novel that really just absolutely landed with you from way back when?
Well, The first one would be a book I picked up at the Tompkins Park Library, which I talk about in the book. It was a wonderful library. It was only on one floor, but I was convinced it went 70 floors down because it had every single book I ever wanted. And the first sports book by John R. Tunis was called The Kid from Tompkinsville. It was just a wonderful, wonderful, I couldn't put it down. And then there was a war book called Submarine Sailor. And of course, the book that absolutely got me into, writing about trains was called Fares, Please. And when I did a history of mass transit in North America, and I was inspired by that original book. But The Kid from Tompkinsville, and also there was a hockey book by Red Dutton, which was in the library, who was the former player and head of the New York Americans. But it was more of a hockey instruction book, but it was hockey. And I got it from the library. And, these look like finding gold when you're a kid like that.
Were your parents pleased with your choice of vocation? Did they support you in wanting to become a writer?
Well, first of all, we were poor. So when I was crazy about hockey and I was going to high school, I wanted to go to a college that had hockey. And I found out that Dartmouth was one, McGill in Canada was another, and the University of Toronto was the third. And I got the booklets, the bulletins, whatever. And of course, the tuition was, out of sight. And I wound up going to Brooklyn College. And guess what the tuition was at Brooklyn College per semester? $50.
Wow.
Well, I got 4 years education at Brooklyn College.
Wow.
You talk, or you mentioned many times where you grew up, 582 Marcy Avenue in Brooklyn. Is that right? That's the address?
Yeah. Yeah.
If we went there, if you and I went there today, what would we find?
Well, you wouldn't find the house I lived in, because what happened was in the neighborhood, at the end of the war, the neighborhood began to deteriorate. It was called what they call white flight. People could buy cars. People moved out to Long Island, and the neighborhood went to hell. And about, I would say, sometime in the early 70s, but my friend Bob Stampleman, the guy I mentioned, we had dinner with Scotty Bowman. We drove. He was from Montreal, so we drove to Coney Island, and on the way back, he said, "I want to see your old neighborhood." So it was on the way back, and we came to where our house was. Now, 582 was a brownstone, 3 houses from the corner. So 586 was on the corner, 584 was next to that, and we went 582. So when we got to that corner, the 581, the house at the corner was just a pile of rubble. 584, the next to it, was a little higher rubble, and our house, 582, was like a blockbuster came down, and the walls were still up, but it was sickening. It was sickening. Now, Williamsburg is now a very in place. It's all, you got to have money to live in Williamsburg. Williamsburg has been totally rebuilt. And I did ride, Chico Resch asked me to take him for a ride through Brooklyn, because Chico was the inspiration to Tales of Brooklyn. And Chico and I drove, and when we got to my corner, where our house was a 3-story brand new condo, which would have cost a fortune, and everything has been gentrified. Everything.
So no more trolley cars, no more street cars.
No, we don't have trolleys. We have buses, and it pains me to this day.
How did the time and the conversation with Chico end up segueing to Tales of Brooklyn?
Well, for one thing, I've worked with Chico. I worked with Chico at least 10 years doing Devil's games on television. And every time we'd go on the road, he asked me to tell him stories about it. He was from Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
And he's fascinated with Brooklyn. So he'd ask me to tell him stories, and I love to tell stories. And one of the stories that fascinated him, which was in the book, was about ice cream and my family's craze for ice cream. And the story was that everybody in our family loved ice cream, but nobody loved it more than my Aunt Hattie, who lived in Albany, my mother's kid sister. And she'd come visit all the time. Whenever she'd come visit, we'd have ice cream. So anyhow, now she's visiting us, and it was December 26, 1947. And this was right after Christmas, and we had the biggest snowfall in New York City's history. It started then, and it kept going and going and going. And Hattie's at the house, and about the second day of the blizzard, she discovers that we didn't have any more ice cream upstairs where we lived on the third floor, and there was no ice cream down on the first floor where my grandparents' kitchen was, and no ice cream. It was like an SOS. Got to have ice cream. So she says to me, she says, Stanley, here's $5. Will you go out and get some ice cream? It was about 4:30. It was already getting dark. The snow is coming down, and I loved snow. And I thought, wow, this is great. I got $5 here. I'm going to go out in the snow. And the only problem was, this was the biggest blizzard. Everything was closed. It was like Montana in the country. Cars were marooned in the street, and everything was closed. I didn't care I had my galoshes on, and I'm walking toward the Williamsburg Bridge, and I'm having a great time for about 10 blocks. And then I'm starting to realize nothing is open, but I got to keep going because I can't come back without any ice cream. So I walk all the way to right where the Williamsburg Bridge started, which is pretty far. And the elevated line comes off the bridge, and it goes along Broadway, Brooklyn. See? What happened was that I'm walking under the Broadway L, and it's no fun anymore. There's nothing open, and I can't come back without any ice cream. And it was no fun. I was, slogging through the snow, and all of a sudden I see a light in the candy store. So I got the ice cream, and now I'm schlepping home through this crazy snow, and all of a sudden I get about a half a block from the house, and I thought I was going to collapse, but I make it to the house. I walk in, I take the paper bag, it was all wet, paper bag, and I put it on the kitchen table, and I go back, take off my galoshes, take off, my Mackinac and I hear a crazy noise in the kitchen, like a very, very bad sound, but I couldn't make it out. And it was Aunt Hattie. And what happened? And then I walk into the kitchen, and she looks at me sternly, and she says, "Do you mean you got Reed's?" Now, there were 4 ice creams. There was Seal Test, there was Borden's, there was Horton's, and there was one other one.
Reed's.
And the worst of them all was Reed's. It was like Thunderbird is to wine. It was crap. And she took the quart and dumped it in the garbage. And I was never so crushed in my life. Now, Chico thought this was the greatest story ever told. So every once in a while, we would be somewhere on the road. He says, "Tell me the story again," about Aunt Hattie. And went over and over and over again. So about 4 years ago, this was around just before the COVID thing hit, he sends me an email. His wife's name was Diane. He says, "Diane wants you to write down the Aunt Hattie story and send it to her as an email." I write the thing and send it to her. I get an email back. "This is a great story, Stan. Send me another one about Brooklyn." So I thought of, I may have sent him, the second one could have been the stealing the trolley car bit. And another email back, boy, this is great. Give me another one. So now I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, I'm sending them these stories. Why don't I send them to my cousins and my, people might want to read. So the next, I sent a batch to different people, and they kept asking me for more. So when I got to the 20th story, my agent said, write 10 more, and you'll have a book.
Wow.
And that's thanks to Chico and his wife.
That's great.
That's awesome. So, I think we'll end it there for today, Stan. We'll let you go get your cell phone and see if your son's calling you.
No, I might as well finish with a joke, right?
Yeah, tell us another joke.
Totally.
So this guy's walking down Fifth Avenue in front of St. Patrick's Cathedral. He's arm in arm with two live penguins, one on the right, one on the left, right in front of St. Patrick's, biggest church in New York. Cop sees him. He goes over to the guy. He says, you can't do that. He said, what do you mean I can't do this? You can't be walking here with live penguins. He said, I can give you a ticket. It costs you $50. Guy said, what do you want me to do with them? He said, take those two penguins and get in a cab and take them to the Bronx Zoo. That's where you go. Otherwise, I'll give you a summons. So he hails a cab, jumps in the cab, and he goes to the Bronx Zoo with the penguins. Next day, the cop's on the beat in front of St. Patrick's Cathedral. Car pulls up at a red light, and he looks in the car. There's the same guy as yesterday. Now he's driving the car, and they're the same two penguins sitting in the back seat, except now the penguins are wearing sunglasses. Cop goes over to the guy. He says, what the hell's the matter with you? I thought I told you to take those penguins to the Bronx Zoo. The guy said I did, and they loved it. Now we're going to Coney Island.
That's awesome. That's great.
You told me a joke at the New York State Hockey Hall of Fame induction about all lawyers are assholes. Can you just tell that joke for us?
So this guy's in a bar, drinks a beer, and then he climbs up on the bar and he yells so everybody in the bar can hear. He says, all lawyers are assholes. All lawyers are assholes. And the guy all the way in the back comes running up to him and he says, I resent that remark. I resent that remark. The guy says, why? You a lawyer? He says, no, I'm an asshole.
Thanks, Stan. What a pleasure. What a treat.
Yeah, I got to say, Stan, that this has been a real honor for you.
It's a pleasure for me, and I'll do it anytime you want to do it some more. I got about 100 more jokes we can tell.
Awesome, and we'd love to hear absolutely more stories from Brooklyn. So
keep it rolling.
Yeah, and
that
momentum. I got to go check see if my son's reaching me.
Yeah. See? Okay. Thank you very much, Stan, and yeah, we'll have you on again real soon for sure.
Okay, doing it in playoffs.
Yeah. All right.
Perfect.
Okay, and then once the Canucks eliminate the Oilers, you got to root for the Canucks then.
Well, my boy Travis Green, now a head coach.
Yeah, and Jersey Devils. Yeah, he got his first win. So yeah, good. I always liked him.
Hey guys, got to go.
All right, thanks, Stan.
All right, bye.
See ya. Awesome, eh?
Yeah, what a treat. That's great.
I'm tingling.
Yeah, that's a big moment for you. Mm-hmm. With I mean that the pat on the back, getting a pat on the back from an accomplished writer like that must have felt pretty special.
The guy's written over 100 books, so yeah, I still can't believe that I actually get to talk to him, because like I say, he's been a hero of mine since I became a hockey fan, and so all those stories about all those old names and stuff. Yeah, he's he's a treasure for sure.
I guess you're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait quite a while for him to write a book about your Canucks, eh?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, he's pretty.
Hold on, he's written one for my team.
Yeah, he's pretty partial to his New York team. So yeah. I mean, he grew up a Maple Leaf fan. Then he switched to the Rangers because he worked for the Rangers, and then he worked for the Devils. He was an analyst, between periods analyst, And then he switched to the Islanders, and now the Islanders have named their press box the Stan Fischler press box. Like,
Really?
yeah. So and so
you notice he had that he had his Islanders hat
mhm.
up on the hanging behind him.
Yeah, he's diehard Islanders now, and
diehard Coca-Cola fan too.
Yeah, and Red Bull. Did you see the Red Bull?
Just to keep that momentum going a little.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Red Bull keeps the momentum going. Yeah, for sure. All right, Tone. So
sounds good.
Yeah, that was a great interview, and I can't wait to have him on again. So
yeah, that'll be great.
Okay, so that's part 2 of Stan Fischler. We're really looking forward to having him on again. It was a great interview, Tony. What do you think?
Oh, I think I can't wait to talk to him during the playoffs, and just I think what'll be really fun with having him around and on the show, and I think he's going to want to come on regularly for just like little spots, like 5-minute spots and stuff, where we could pepper him with just little stories. And I mean, I think he goes to the recipe box.
The story of the week or something. Have a story of the week. Yeah. Okay. Or 2 weeks, as it were. Yeah. So
he's good fun.
Yeah. He's great. Yeah. So what's the music of the week? What do we got?
Well, going old school, you probably see a little bit. I was mentioning Alberta Cross, but in honor of the remake of Roadhouse, I got one of my all-time favorite albums. Jeff
Healey. Yeah, somebody on Twitter said today was his birthday, born 1966.
Today?
That's what I read on Twitter. So the post might have been a couple days old, so I don't know. The way Twitter works, I don't understand. Like there's old and new posts always in my feed. So
hold on.
Are you gonna Google it?
Yes. No. Okay. I did not know that. His birthday is today.
Wow! Holy cow! Happy birthday, Jeff Healey! Yeah.
that was in with the remake of Roadhouse that came out.
Yeah, I've seen the trailers. Yeah,
I was thrilled watching that movie, and all of a sudden Jeff Healey's playing in the bar.
Yeah, I thought you were bigger.
Well, you'd know about playing behind that kind of chicken wire.
Yeah, I did that a few times. Yeah. Yeah, we had one game in this rink where we actually had to walk through the fans, and there was chicken wire. We had to walk through the fans to get to the rink, and then there was like a 2-foot drop down onto the ice. So it was pretty funny. I totally expected somebody to give me a push.
Oh,
yes. Yeah, because we were in enemy territory there. So yeah, pretty funny.
I was listening to Kipper and Bourne today, and they were talking about. We'll talk about it on an upcoming show, but talking about the East Coast League and now versus back in the day, what those kind of leagues. And I mean, you would have been exposed to all that, so that'll be good banter for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was one guy that I played with in Saskatchewan. He left our team halfway through the season because he got signed by the Johnstown Jets, where Slapshot was filmed, and he played the rest of that season. And then the next season, he finished 3rd in scoring in the East Coast League, and he got signed by the Rangers for a PTO, just a PTO. But he blew out his knee that summer, and that was the end of his career. Yeah, so
be interesting to see what his penalty minutes were like.
Yeah, well, he wasn't a big penalty guy, but that was a guy I told the story in my book where like he would score like 5 goals a game for us, and he'd disappear for 2 games, and he'd score 6, and so and then one of the other teams we were playing, and right up almost. Not even 5 minutes into the game, he gets into a fight with this guy and just tunes him. It's just like lays a beating on the guy and leaves him a bloody, pulpy mess on the ice. And it turned out that it was the team's bus driver. Because, they dressed him specifically to take him out of the game. Because when you fight, you're out of the game, right? So, they dressed him just to get him because he had scored like 5 goals against them the previous game. So they dressed their bus driver to get him into a scrap. So,
Love it.
Yeah, that was the kind of stuff that went on back then. So, all right, Tone, that's all we got. Good music, Jeff Healey. And what's the Alberta Cross? What is that? Is that country rock? Is it?
It's a band from the UK. The lead singer is from Sweden, and he started with a fella from the UK. They put together 2 albums and an EP, and then they kind of went by the wayside. And saw them a couple times here, and ended up yakking with them. And they were playing in Calgary, and we went and saw them there, and hung out with them a couple times. And
so, what kind of music is it?
Rock and roll. Kind of not old school rock, but just they got some heavier guitars, and they've got some kind of acoustic, and the songwriting's dynamite, so it's definitely worth a listen.
Some riff-raff. Okay.
Sounds good. Well, happy birthday, Jeff Healey. I love that.
Happy birthday, Jeff Healey. And we'll be along again in 2 weeks. Not sure who our guest is going to be, but I'm sure we'll have one. So
you got her.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Sounds good. Take care. Love you.
Love you, bro.